Ready?
Okay. Well, this is a special treat. I have been observing this young man for quite some time, and he is a leader to many, well, to most. And I am grateful and honored to have him on the
McDermott Show.
So fasten your seatbelts because we're going to learn and grow together. Oh, by the way, Chris, I didn't tell you, you get to dance this morning. Are you ready to do the head bob?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. This is where we get our morning stretches. Do you know Andrea Beeman? Have you heard of Andrea Beeman? Well, anyway, she just said, first thing when you wake up, you need to stretch like the animals. Have you ever seen a dog?
I usually do stretch first thing.
I never knew that. I never thought it. Just show us your stretches. There we go. Instead of dancing, we're going to stretch today.
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
This is the place you can always turn to.
Got a ceiling fan ahead of me, so above me, so it's like.
Lillian, visit her on the web
with your fingers.
needafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who've been tuning in for the last 7 years, welcome back. I'm so grateful for you. Even if you're just tuning in from yesterday, from stumbling upon the show. But if today you stumbled upon the show, this is a great one to stumble into. Let me just tell you, this is a place I've been waiting for you. And this is a place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide an alternative way to heal, and it is my purpose to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today we're giving away a book, but I'm not going to tell you yet to call, and I'm not going to give you the number yet because I am so excited, because this is a person that I have been admiring from afar, because to whom much is given, much is expected, right? When you don't know what you don't know, how do you know what to do? But once you know it, spread it from the mountaintop, right? Well, this is what Chris Wark is doing. In 2003, at 26 years of age, Chris Wark was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. I'm sure he was confused, feeling vulnerable, but Chris started a journey that would give him purpose for his life, not just for his life, but give others hope as well. And he's going to talk about how Chris beat cancer, naturally. And this is what I just absolutely love to talk about on the Lillian McDermott radio show. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Chris Wark of Chris Beat Cancer is on the Lillian McDermott radio show to do just that. Thank you, Chris, for waking up early and doing your stretches and sharing your wisdom.
Hi, Lillian. It's really great to be with you.
Nice to be with you as well. Tell us your story, because maybe because my show, people are driving to work and it's not necessarily a health and wellness. It's about taking 100% responsibility and owning our life. Share how your journey began.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer when I was 26 years old. This was December 2003. And, being a young guy, I was having these abdominal pains. I thought I had an ulcer. And eventually, a doctor did a colonoscopy because they couldn't figure out what was wrong, and found a golf ball-sized tumor in my large intestine. And again, young guy, it was completely off the radar for me. I had no family history of colon cancer, didn't know anybody that didn't even been through cancer. It didn't even cross my mind. And like most cancer patients, I was clueless about the disease, and I was rushed into treatment. And basically what they said was, well, you've got this tumor. So, and they biopsied the tumor, and they said, it's cancer, and we need to get you into surgery right away and get this thing out of you before it spreads and kills you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, okay, whatever you say, doc. Right.
Yes.
And this was 2 days before Christmas also, which was incredibly depressing. So I was able to postpone the surgery till after Christmas, went in on December 30th, and they took out a third of my large intestine, took out the tumor, and it had spread to surrounding lymph nodes. They took everything they could see that was cancerous. And when I woke up, they said, well, it's worse than we thought. We thought you were probably stage 2, which would only require surgery, but you're stage 3C, which means you're going to need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy.
Wow.
So at that point, I just accepted, like, okay, like, this is my life. Now I'm the young adult cancer patient, like, and it was really tough, to accept that I was now weak and vulnerable, because leading up to that point in my life, I thought I was invincible. I was prideful and arrogant, and I had a chip on my shoulder. I had something to prove to the world. I was an entrepreneur and building a real estate business, and a musician, playing in bands and touring and doing things like that. And, this was, it was just a huge dose of humble pie,
Sure.
basically.
Yeah.
And so, and I didn't like it. I was humiliated and ashamed. And I really secretly, deep down, I hated myself. I was very insecure, and was trying to overcompensate with success. Right.
Yeah.
And so 2 things happened in the hospital that got me thinking a little bit differently about my future. And one of them was the first meal that they served me after surgery. And we can talk about that after the break.
Oh, we are going to talk about that first meal after the break, but I want to encourage you to be the 10th caller or texter to get Chris Beat Cancer's new book, 407-373-5959. Chris Beat Cancer just came out, and it is yours free. The 10th caller, 407-373-5959. And we're going to continue our conversation with Chris Wark with Chris Beat Cancer when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Chris, it's so funny that you would say, I'm sure you've done research on the work of Reiki Hammer, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So when you have colon cancer, what does Reiki say? What does Dr. Hammer say about colon cancer?
Yeah. It's bitterness, basically.
Did you feel that you were carrying that with you? Obviously, if you're carrying shame and bitterness and all of that. And did you how long did it take you to research his work? How long did it take you to get there? Because I know everybody's going to be forcing you to do chemo. And I do want to talk about the pressure, the peer pressure, not only.
Yeah. Well, I found him years later, but I learned a lot during that process from other survivors and health and wellness experts that led me down the path of not just physical healing, but emotional healing too. And happy to talk about it.
Awesome. Because many people, like with the show, I love to talk about mind, body, spirit responsibility, not just, It's great to have great nutrition. And it's very important, but 95% of all illness is due to a life event, according to the doctors that have been on my show. That's a lot. And people don't even want to go there.
Yeah, stress and trauma and are such huge, profound disease causers.
Yeah.
I talk about it in the book too.
Yeah,
absolutely talk about that in the book. The only problem is, it's hard to prove it scientifically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But every cancer patient I've talked to had major stress in their life. Many of them had those traumatic type events leading up to their disease, the death of a loved one, right? Or the divorce, right? Something like that. And
or not enoughness can guide you for the rest of your life with choices that are based out of fear of being found out or not being enough or all of that. It's just amazing.
It's true. I know. I see it all the time. Every patient I talk to has some serious emotional baggage they need to get rid of.
Absolutely. Okay, so here we go. Let's continue with your first meal. This is like the opposite of your last meal. Your first meal of the rest of your life.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Well, you heard the number, 407-373-5959. Be the 10th caller or texter and get the brand new book of Chris Wark, Chris Beat Cancer. In there, you have all the information, all wrapped up into a wonderful, beautiful book. Hold it up, Chris. And it is just an amazing book. I want to encourage you, 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. Love it. Love what you're doing, Chris. I love you. I've loved you from afar. And so here's the thing. Most people, like when you hear about the last meal, someone in death row is going to eat their last meal. And basically the last meal probably would have killed them anyway. So here you are. You've been given a death sentence so much because that was what we think about with cancer. And now you're having your first meal after surgery. Share a little bit about that.
The first meal they served me after surgery was a surprise for sure. They brought me a sloppy Joe.
Sloppy Joe.
Sloppy Joe, which is funny that you mentioned, death row and the last meal, because sloppy Joe is not the kind of food that most people ever ask for or want, right? It's typically something you would only find in maybe a school cafeteria, summer camp, the army, and prison. So, and now, apparently, if you have cancer and you're in the hospital, you get a sloppy Joe. So, they put that in front of me, and I just was like, what is this? Like, I was just shocked, right? It's like, this is the worst cafeteria food I can think of. Mm-hmm. And they're serving it to sick people, not to mention the fact that red meat is known to cause colon cancer.
Yes.
Right? It's a group 2 carcinogen.
Yes.
So,
by the World Health Organization. It's
right.
Not even us who are looking at alternative. This is the actual world organization that's saying this is not good for you.
Yeah, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is a division of the World Health Organization. Yeah. They're the governing body of all cancer research. And so like group 1 would be cigarettes and processed meat like bacon, sausage, hot dogs. Those are group 1 carcinogens, group 2 red meat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so that got the wheels turning a little bit. Like, man, why is there such a big disconnect between health care and health, right? Healthy living. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing that happened in the hospital that kind of confirmed my suspicions was on the day they told me I could go home, the surgeon came in to check on me, and we were having a conversation. And I said, hey, is there any food I need to avoid? Because instinctively I wanted to help myself, right? Yeah. I didn't want to do anything that would hurt me. I wanted to, help my body heal. And his response was, nah, just don't lift anything heavier than a beer.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Just horrible. That was it. You have to laugh because now we know you're okay, but we just have to laugh that off. But many people think that is a recommendation and permission to do whatever you want again.
That's right. That's right. And it was permission to eat whatever I wanted. It's exactly what it was. And so I go home, I'm recovering from surgery, and I'm thinking about my life and my future and about what it would be, what I'm going to become. And I had just an increasing internal resistance to chemotherapy. Mm. I just knew it was destructive. And I knew it was going to make me sick. And the idea of poisoning my way back to health didn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. Now, for some people, that's what they want to do, and that's their choice. And, I don't tell people not to do chemo or not to do treatment or whatever. But for me, I couldn't wrap my brain around this idea of, taking something that would definitely make me worse. And there was no guarantee it would make me better. And so, but I didn't know what else to do. And so my wife and I prayed about it. And I just said, God, if there's another way besides chemotherapy, please show me. I don't know what to do. And, it was just a very sincere prayer of desperation, right? Just asking for help. A couple days later, I got a book that was sent to me by my dad, by a friend of my dad's who lived in Alaska. I'm in Tennessee. And I get a book and I start reading this book, and it was talking about healing cancer with nutrition. And the guy who wrote it had healed his own colon cancer with nutrition something like 30 years prior. still alive. And I just knew that was the answer to my prayer. It was just so clear to me. I was on the couch in my house, choked up, like literally just sitting there, just crying, because I knew God had answered my prayer and had given me something. And I had a huge epiphany. And the epiphany was the way I was living was killing me, right? It was the way I was living. It was my diet and my lifestyle and the negative emotions in my life too, which we'll talk about.
Yes.
So I realized I had to change, right? I had to make massive, radical changes in my life. And I was excited about that because all of a sudden I got my power back.
Yes.
You know, most cancer patients are turned into powerless victims by their doctors. Not that the doctors mean to do it, but what happens is every conversation a cancer patient, every cancer patient has this conversation where they say, why do you think I got cancer? Like, what caused my cancer? And the doctor says, oh, yeah, well, it's probably just bad luck.
Your genes,
genetic.
Yeah, your DNA. Right? Yeah.
And what that does is that's the doctor saying there's nothing you did to contribute to your disease because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Therefore, there's nothing you can do to help yourself.
Correct.
Right? Other than show up for treatment. You are a powerless victim. We'll do the best to take care of you. Just rely on us. And you just go home back to your life that's a stress mess of a life that's unhealthy in many ways. Just go back to that life. Keep eating whatever you want, thinking the way you want, doing what you're doing. And by the way, you should actually eat more junk food. You should eat more ice cream and pizza and milkshakes because we don't want you to lose too much weight during treatment.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And so because you don't have the information, so as I was preparing for today's show and knowing that you really, truly, and all the wonderful things, before I go into this, you went with a resolution that you were never going to have chemotherapy.
No. Actually, I just made a decision that I didn't want to do it right away. And I thought, this is more of a last resort for me.
Okay. So now you're going to go visit the oncologist, and what happened there?
Right. So overnight, I transformed my life. Okay. I converted to a raw food diet, raw fruits and vegetables straight from the earth, because this epiphany I had was that I needed to get back in harmony with nature. I needed to eat food straight from the earth, right? That God made for us, like fruits and vegetables. And I was eating a processed food diet, tons of meat and dairy, tons of fast food, processed food, junk food, anything I wanted. And I realized this is probably what's making me sick. And we know now, I know for certain it was. Back then I had very little information, but we know that only 5% of cancers are genetic.
Yes.
And up to 95% of cancers are caused by 3 factors: diet, lifestyle, and environment.
Yes.
Stress is an underlying cause, which we can get to, but the scientific community is, pretty much in agreement on this. So I realized I got to change my life. I got to change my diet, change my environment. I got to detoxify. I got to turn my life upside down and help myself get well. And I was excited about that. It's sort of like an adventure to me. And I couldn't wait to see what would happen if I did it. Yeah. And I believed it would help me. And so immediately I bought a juicer. I went to, Whole Foods and loaded up on fruits and vegetables. And I was on my way, but people around me didn't like that.
Yes.
Many people around me, close to me, were trying to talk me out of it.
And they meant well.
Absolutely.
And I've been there. I've been one of those people saying, "Oh, you need to have chemotherapy," before I started the show.
They love me, right? They wanted me to live. And they were basically saying, look, you've got to do what the doctor says. Don't you think if there was something better, they would know about it?
Yes.
They've got the best treatments available. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I didn't have good answers for those questions at the time. And so what happened was they loved me, but they ended up creating a lot more fear, anxiety, and confusion.
Correct.
In my mind and heart. And that made it really, I realized if I'm going to do this, I am going to have to do it alone.
Mm.
So I reluctantly agreed to go see the oncologist because there was so much family pressure. We go to the clinic. The waiting room's packed. I look around. It's full of people who are twice my age or 3 times my age.
Yeah.
Again, remember, I'm 26, handlebar mustache, shaggy hair, like I'm a rock dude. And I'm like, God, I don't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
We sit down, we're watching the TV, waiting to go back. You go to the doctor's office, you're going to wait for an hour.
Yeah. And there's cookies. There's cookies and Tootsie Rolls there waiting for you.
There weren't any cookies. I probably would have eaten them. No, I wouldn't have at that time. But yeah, I know. There weren't even any good snacks. Yeah. But we're watching the TV, and out comes Jack LaLanne on one of the morning shows. And Jack comes out, and he starts going off. I don't know why he was on the show. Maybe it was his birthday, or he was doing something special. But anyway, I think he was 78 at the time. Comes out, and he starts going off about nutrition. And he's saying the reason we're all so sick is because we're eating all this man-made processed food and junk food. You need to go back to a diet that's fruits and vegetables and juicing. Yeah. And if man made it, don't eat it. And I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this is on right now with me sitting in the cancer clinic. Like it's like the message, right? Yes. Like divinely beamed in for me to hear it at the perfect time, which may be happening to some of your listeners now.
I hope so.
I hope so too. And so I was like, I turned to my wife and I was like, can you believe this is on right now? And she's like, that's pretty weird. And so we go back to see the oncologist. I should have just gotten up right then and been like, I'm out of here. But we go back and see the oncologist, and he gives me the standard pitch. He's like, look, you got stage 3C colon cancer. You're a young adult. It's very aggressive in young adults. You need chemotherapy. We want to give you 5-FU and leucovorin. And 5-FU, by the way, is known as 5 feet under. Oh. That's a great nickname for that drug. The only chemo drug with the worst nickname is doxorubicin, which they call Red Death. Oh. So anyway, he said, you've got about a 60% chance of living 5 years with treatment. And I'm like, gosh, 60%? I mean, that's kind of low. That's not a very high percentage, and that's making me kind of nervous and not real confident about this treatment.
Sure.
So, I know we got a break coming up, so I don't want to get too far into the story.
No, you keep going. Okay.
All right.
We're off in the edge of
So here's the thing. So then I asked him, well, are there any alternative treatments available? And he says, no, there are none. If you don't do chemotherapy, you're insane. And at that point, the conversation changed from, pleasant to him becoming very aggressive and demeaning and talking down to me and giving me all these reasons why I had to do chemotherapy. And basically saying in so many words, if you don't do what I say, you're going to die.
And that's what many people experience when they think they may have. I mean, people are taking off their limbs. They're because they're afraid that they might get it. And this is a show about empowerment and freedom. So be the 10th caller, 407-373-5959, and be the 10th caller to win the copy of the book, Chris Beat Cancer. We will return with Chris when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Sorry about that, Chris. I did go like this because I was interested, but I didn't go like this.
You're right. I know, it just threw me.
Look at me like, are you giving me a clue?
Threw me off. It's okay.
Yeah, I do. That is that fear that we all. So moving forward, I want to take fear because I am the acronym queen. I love acronyms. I write for Florida Today, and I also started a foundation, by the way. I started the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation because I have seen this. I've been with people that are receiving alternative forms of cancer treatment or healing their body, nourishing their body as opposed to killing their body. And I've been there, and I started a foundation called the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation. And my goal is to pay for alternative treatments. That's what I want to do. There's no need for research. We've done the research. We know that the body is deficient. We know what the body needs, especially with the exception of those 5%, maybe they need something different. But, I've interviewed so many doctors, Dr. James Forsyth, I don't know if did you ever meet Charles Majors, Dr. Charles Majors?
Yeah, we spoke together a few times.
Do you know that he was the one that opened my eyes to alternative health? And I met James Forsyth by accident right before my show with Charles. And it's a shame that, and I love the fact that you are taking things a lot easier.
Yeah, Charles never slowed down. He was way too intense. And I was worried about him just after I met him and after I became aware of him and I was watching him. Yeah, I was definitely worried about the guy because he was still trying to blow up his chiropractic business, opening new offices and doing all this stuff. And I'm like thinking, man, you got to slow down, buddy.
Well, you know what Reiki says.
You're in the danger zone.
Yeah, Reiki Hammer says about brain cancer. And so that just goes in alignment. And I was talking to because I was listening, I was getting prepared for a third show that I did. Well, it was a show that I wanted to honor him after he ascended with James Forsyth and one of his dear friends. And I was watching a video, and I had a show with Dr. Lorraine Day. I don't know if you're familiar. I'm sure you're familiar.
Oh, yeah. She was an influence. Very, very influential.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, back in the day.
Oh, yeah. The first time I did an interview with her, oh, my gosh, I wasn't ready for her. It was too soon for me. It was too soon for everything that she was saying, but I considered it. And I did research. And but I asked her, because many of the things Charles was saying, Lorraine said many, many years ago. And I asked her, I said, did you coach him? And she said, no, I've never heard of him. I said, well, he speaks your language. And so I said, well, should I know him? I said, well, he just passed away. He just ascended. And she said, well, what happened? And so I told him, and she said, well, right there, he didn't slow down. And she's, how she is. She's like, that's what happened. You can do what you do from home, and don't be exposed to radiation. Don't be exposed to all these people, and and she just went off on it. And I said, you know what? If I would have heard you say these things 3 years ago, I would have tuned you out. But I'm listening now. I'm listening. And I hope that people are listening to the show today or watching us on YouTube and listening to this conversation right now. And by the way, Brian, keep me honest going back. I don't know how much time we have going back, but I hope that people will just consider. And I don't know if, can you see me? I think my internet.
That doesn't seem good.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Brian?
There we go.
There we go.
Yep.
Are we back? Okay. So we just had
We've
a little
been here.
glitch.
10 seconds.
10 seconds? Oh, okay. Okay. So that was Brian. So here we go. I want to take fear and go on a journey with you. Okay. I'm going to take that acronym. Okay. If we're on, I can't. Okay, here we go. This is intense, Chris. This is intense. Just like Dr. Lorraine Day.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where you can hear us worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. I am your host, Lillian McDermott, and it is my goal that we learn from each other every day, go through life with childlike wonder. And today's teacher is Chris Wark of Chris Beat Cancer, a young man I've been watching for the last 3 years. I'm so grateful that he is on the Lillian McDermott Radio Show to share his story, to give us all hope. Because, like he said, you don't take poison to heal your body. Poison is what made you sick, but we don't think of food as poison, right? So this is what we're doing today. We are talking about a shift. I don't need for you, if this doesn't make sense to you, move on. You're not ready for it. That's okay. But maybe you can transfer and share it with somebody that is, someone that might be open to consider this new truth. And I ask that you go to and continue this growth with me that started when somebody offered me to do a radio show. Never in a million years did I think I'd be the crazy lady saying, hey, food is medicine. Yeah, you can heal naturally. I would have tuned myself out too. But everybody has a time. And that was my time. Just like with Chris at 26, God bless him. It was his time. Most 26 years old are saying, I'm invincible. I will live forever. Give me another burger. And so these are the moments that define us. These moments that we think are just the worst things in our lives turn out to be our crowning moment that give us purpose, not poison. And so go to whenyouneedafriend.com, become a subscriber, join me in this movement of taking 100% responsibility for our life, mind, body, spirit, ownership that will release you and give you empowerment and freedom. Become a subscriber. When you do that, you get all sorts of gifts, and the show will be sent to you. While you're there, check out the YouTube video, because we get to have on and off the air conversations that you can't hear while you're driving or on podcasts. So go and become a subscriber. That gets sent to you. And one last thing, I want you to check out my sponsors. Without my sponsors, this show would not happen. It's a free show that you can listen to at any time. When you are ready, you can listen to the show again. So check out my sponsors, figure out ways that you can support them the way they are supporting the show. You can listen to me on social media. Go to social media, follow me on there. All sorts of buttons at whenyouneedafriend.com. On podcasts, you can be the 10th caller or texter to win the free book, Chris Beat Cancer. And I am just so grateful that we have this number, 407-373-5959, right on cue. Chris, he's demonstrating his book. It's a beautiful book that is full of hope, but it's not just hope that is not founded. It's hope that is founded in truth, that is founded on medical evidence. And so, Chris, as we are learning about you and learning your story, and I was doing some research, I realized that fear kept you from really feeling that this is what I need to do. I need to listen to my intuition. And it's so coincidental or ironic, I don't know what word we want to use here, that you would receive a book when you first started this journey, and now you're able to give this book to other people when they're starting their journey. So well done, thy good and faithful servant. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're talking about fear, and fear is a huge problem for cancer patients, right?
Yes.
The diagnosis is scary, and fear and all negative emotions, anxiety, fear, stress, actually suppress your immune system. Mm-hmm. And increase inflammation in the body. So yes. Fear is not your friend. And unfortunately, most cancer clinics, as I was talking about before the break, are fear factories. Mm-hmm. And they use fear to manipulate and motivate patients to say yes to treatments that they don't understand, right? Yeah. They rush them into treatments. And again, doesn't mean, I don't tell people don't do treatment. Correct. But it's really important if you're going to say yes to a treatment that has potentially life-threatening side effects, as most chemotherapy drugs do, that you fully understand the risks and benefits. Absolutely. And I actually have a downloadable guide on my website called 20 Questions for Your Oncology.
And I was going to get to that. Yeah. So here's the thing. I want to take the acronym FEAR, because fear is paralyzing, but I want to use the acronym FEAR to give us power. So the F, I'm going to say find. Seek, find alternative, find people that speak your language, like your website, Chris Beat Cancer. So for those of you who want to learn a little bit more about Chris, so the F is for find alternative, find people that will support you. Tell us, how did finding alternative ways to heal, finding people that were like-minded, any moment in your choice that you made, that finding that new truth made a big difference for you?
Well, the way my cancer clinic visit ended was I was so afraid that I made an appointment to start chemotherapy in a few weeks. And I went in there confident, feeling good. I'd been on a raw food diet for a week, and I was excited about changing my life and was in the process of doing it. And I left there just completely terrified and hopeless. But I had an appointment the next day to go see a naturopath, a clinical nutritionist, who was a master herbalist and naturopath. And that visit was very different than the oncologist visit. And he was the first person to tell me I was doing the right thing. Mm. And that was huge for me. I mean, no one had said, you're doing the right thing. Pretty much everybody around me was like, you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And his office was very peaceful and calming and soothing. And it just felt good being there. There was no fear in his office. And he was the first person I found. And I have to give credit to my mom, because my mom's a health nut. She always supported me. And she had a bunch of books by Paul Bragg and Pablo Areola and all of these health and wellness influencers. She connected me with Dr. Lorraine Day's work, Dr. Richard Schultz. So my mom was this amazing resource for me.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you're going to be called a nut, being a health nut is a good thing. So that's a good thing. So finding that that was aligning with your intention, which your intuition was telling you, don't do this, Chris.
Yeah, and you're right. So I was listening to my instincts and intuition. I prayed, I asked for an answer, information came to me, but I had opposition, right? Yes. And that's really tough. And a lot of times when God speaks to you and tells you to do something, you're going to have opposition, okay? And people around you might think you're insane for doing it. And that's right where I was. But you're talking about the F and fear for finding information, finding support, finding help. And so I was on a quest, right, to find help and find support and to learn more. Like, how can I help myself?
Yes. Very good. Okay. So I'm going to take the E. The E is education, doing research, which is what you eventually did. And now you've got this book that's going to just hand it to people. So let's talk about the E, the process that it took from shifting the mentality that chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery were the only answer after all these years of trillions of dollars in research. We still have the same answers in conventional medicine. So how did you find yourself? How did you educate yourself, Chris?
Yeah, it's funny. Back then, the internet was not helpful. It just wasn't. There was no YouTube in January 2004. It didn't come along for a few years. And no Facebook, of course, no social media. So the internet was very different. And, I looked around for some websites about, alternative cancer treatments and things and didn't find anything. So I basically just went from one book to the next, to the next, to the next. It was only books and tapes. I had I had a video cassette of Lorraine Day. I had some cassette tapes and books by Dr. Richard Schultz and some other books in my mom's library that I was going through. And as I proceeded to educate myself or re-educate myself, it was all driven by this core belief that the way I was living was killing me, and I needed to change my life, and I needed to help my body heal. And so when I was looking at conventional cancer treatment, I realized that, many medical treatments today only treat the symptom of a disease. They don't treat the disease itself. So you can poison a tumor, cut it off, radiate it, but the tumor is not the disease. Cancer is a system-wide metabolic disease. The tumors are the symptom of a sick body.
Yes.
Right? You're not sick because you have cancer. You have cancer because you're sick.
Correct.
And so you can cut tumors off all day long, but you're going to grow new tumors unless you change the internal terrain of your body and make your body a place where cancer cannot thrive. The only difference between someone with tumors and someone with no tumors is the internal terrain. And your body's made up of many different systems that all have to work together. But most of us know one of the most important systems in there is your immune system. And so if you have a weak immune system or immune system that's overloaded because of so much toxic junk that you're putting in your body every day, then it's not going to do a great job identifying and eliminating cancer cells, which is what a healthy immune system would do. So my focus shifted from, I just got to kill this cancer, right? Which is this typical mentality, to, I need to rebuild my body. I need to support my body's ability to heal itself. Right? And how do you do that? Well, nutrition is a huge component, right? That's a huge component, is radically changing your diet and giving your body all these wonderful nutrients that are in fruits and vegetables.
Absolutely. And so we talk a lot about nutrition on the Lillian McDermott radio show, but it's not the end all be all. There's more than we need to do. It's a mind, body, spirit approach to healing. Be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959, and win a free copy of the book, Chris Beat Cancer. It is right there waiting for you. 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. And we're going to continue our conversation with Chris when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. It's, there's so much information, Chris, that we just cannot, it's like, we have breaks and we have all these things on radio. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to talk to you off the air as well, because it's the only time we don't get interruptions. So as you're doing this education, there's so much that, we're talking about the body. We want to take care of the body and cut the tumor and do all this stuff. But we are not, and I heard Charles Majors talking about him earlier. I heard Charles Majors say, we are not chemotherapy deficient. I love that. And I've adopted that into what I do with the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation. It's like, okay, figure out if for those people, do you talk, because I don't have the book with me. You talk about the testing to see if you're allergic to chemotherapy. Can you share anything about allergies to chemotherapy and testing that you can do to find out if you are allergic?
Yeah, there's a test called the RGCC test. It's also known as the grease test. And doctors don't typically prescribe it unless they're holistically minded or integrative. But that's a test where they send your blood to Greece, to a lab in Greece, and they test your blood against pretty much every chemotherapy drug out there. And a long list of around 100 natural compounds as well, to see what your cancer responds to. So those results come back, it'll tell you which chemotherapy drugs actually affected your cancer and which ones didn't. And many patients are surprised to find when they do the test that the chemo they're recommended isn't even the best chemo for them.
Correct.
If they're going to do chemo. But they also—
Or they're allergic to all 4 or all 5 or whatever.
Or that it's not really an allergy thing as much as it is it effective or not?
Yes. Okay.
And then, but they also learn, oh, wow, there's some natural compounds that really have a profound impact on my cancer, that are killing my cancer. It might be turmeric, it might be astragalus, it might be, sorry, it's early and I'm like,
that's okay.
brain
That's
fog.
Okay. And people can get the book because it's all in the book.
Multiple compounds that are tested. So, sorry, I was getting stuck on boswellia, which is frankincense. So I was trying to pull out of the ether. So anyway, but yeah, that's a valuable test to get the RGCC test, the grease test. You can Google that and learn about it. It's not a cheap test, but I know a lot of people that have done it, and it was very, very helpful for them. Gave them some very specific insight. Vitamin C is another compound they test. Laetrile they test. Mistletoe. So anyway, yeah.
Amazing. All the things that are out there that was created by nature that we have rejected because we don't know any better. And we have placed all our power in the white coats that are supposed to guide us. And they only get, 3 hours of education with nutrition?
Yeah, and it's not even really, it's mainly just nutrition, like hospital nutrition. It's
sloppy joes.
Yeah. It's like IV nutrition. If your patient has got scurvy, here's what you need to do.
Yeah.
It's not preventative nutrition. It's not about really health and wellness at all.
Exactly. And unless you're Adam Sandler on Billy Madison, that's the only time you get a sloppy joe that you Have you seen Adam Sandler? You're too young for Adam Sandler, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm 41.
So did you see Billy Madison?
Text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn and grow together. Today's teacher is, for all of us, so excited, is Chris Wark of Chris Beat Cancer. Chris has an incredible story, an incredible journey that he just didn't keep silent. And many of us, we're afraid that we're going to be meet obstacles along the way, or people that will say you're a quack, or someone that will diminish your journey. And Chris has incredible strength and has done such great work, just like a book that was handed to him many, many years ago. Now he has a new book that you can hand to someone who needs help, and be the 10th caller or texter 407-373-5959. If you're interested in alternative care, alternative medicine, or figuring out, considering, go to McDermottHolisticHealingFoundation.org. You hear about it during the break, but I just want to say it once again. McDermottHolisticHealingFoundation.org wants to help pay for therapies if you need the therapy. Because, Chris, I'm sure that you discovered that many things that we can do to prevent and reverse it naturally. And so we talked about the F. We talked about the F is for find alternative ways and people that will support you taking that road. And then E is to educate yourself and research. And we've been talking about that during the break. Now the A is ask. You have the 20 questions on your website. Let's talk about some of the questions real quick that we can ask and other ways that we can empower ourselves to know that we're on the right path.
Well, one of the biggest problems cancer patients have is ignorance. They don't know what's happening to them, right? They're rushed into treatment, and they're rushed into treatment they don't understand that can have potentially life-threatening side effects and permanent debilitating damage to their body, okay? That may not cure them, right? And so they don't know what questions to ask, and they're so afraid that they're not even thinking straight. Because you know how it is when you're fearful, when you're full of anxiety, your brain isn't working.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I created a guide. It's a free download called 20 Questions for Your Oncologist to empower patients with the questions they must ask before starting treatment, before saying yes to treatment, to make sure that it really is right for them. Because you know what? The reality is most patients are only getting a few minutes with their doctor.
Yes.
15 minutes, 20 minutes, that's not enough time. And most of them, most of that time is spent with the doctors just talking to them, and they're just sitting there listening. And they might ask, am I going to get sick? Do I have to take off work? And is my hair going to fall out? That's fine. I understand you want to know those things, but the questions you need to ask, which are more important, and I'll talk about a few of them, are, number one, is this treatment going to cure my cancer? How about that question? A lot of patients don't want to ask because they're afraid the answer is going to be no. But to ask that one first, okay? Is this treatment palliative or curative? Now, curative treatment, everybody understands that means the treatment is intended to cure you. But what a lot of people don't know is that many cancer patients are prescribed chemotherapy palliatively. And palliatively means the doctor knows it won't cure the cancer. They're just hoping maybe it'll slow it down a little. And so that's an important question to ask. Is this curative or palliative?
Yes.
Other questions are, can you show me success rate numbers for this treatment, for this drug treatment, for my stage and type of disease?
Yeah.
How about, can you refer me to 5 people that you've successfully treated with my disease? I would love to talk, that are long-term survivors.
Now, are you
years.
expecting the doctor to kick that patient out at that point?
No, listen, this is the litmus test for your doctor, right? Because if your doctor really does care, they'll take the time and they will answer these questions, and you should ask them tough questions, because this is a matter of life and death for you.
Yeah.
Right? They should be more than willing to answer every question you have. But what happens sometimes is doctors get irritated and annoyed because they don't like to answer those questions. Absolutely. They don't like to answer the hard questions. It makes them uncomfortable. They don't like talking about the fact that treatments don't work very well, right? They're doing the best they can. They're not bad people, right? But they have a very small toolbox of options that they're allowed to prescribe for cancer. And, they just are stuck in a system that pays them really well, and it doesn't matter what the results are.
That's right. That's
every oncologist, right? So even the good ones, they're trapped. They're trapped in a system, and they have a handful of tools, and that's it. So you've got to ask these questions, because once you get the answers to those questions, then you can make an informed decision. You can make the best decision for you. And that might be, okay, and I'll give an example, just to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? If you had testicular cancer, well, testicular cancer has about a 90% cure rate. It's very high. And the 10-year survival is 90+%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you were asking these questions and you got that answer, you might be like, okay, yeah, I mean, the odds are very, very strong that chemotherapy is going to cure my testicular cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if you had pancreatic cancer, you ask those questions, the answer you're going to get is, well, the average survival is about 18 months with treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't cure, right? The cure rate is basically zero. They're not curing anybody. So it does vary, but types of cancer and types of treatments. I mean, effectiveness of types of treatments vary based on the type of cancer.
Absolutely.
But as a general rule, just for everybody listening, if it's a blood-based cancer, treatments are more effective. So lymphomas, leukemia, especially childhood leukemia, and testicular cancer, they respond very well to treatment. So drugs work better for those type of cancers. But for solid tumor cancers, breast, colon, liver, lung, pancreatic, ovarian, cervical, those are what we call solid tumor cancers. Treatments have not made much progress in reducing the death rate.
Wow.
And the crazy statistic, probably craziest of all in the world of cancer, is that the overall death rate of cancer in the United States has only come down 5% since the 1960s, since the introduction of chemotherapy.
Wow.
And the only reason it's come down at all, remember this is an average, is because they've made big progress in the blood-based cancers, but not in the solid tumor cancers. And the death rate has dropped significantly because a lot of people have stopped smoking. So lung cancer rates are way down.
Yeah, yeah.
And has nothing to do with treatment. It's just because people have stopped smoking.
Yes. And so for those of you who want to learn more about the 20 questions, you can get those at chrisbeatcancer.com. Real quick, I want to go through the R, which is responsibility, resolve, sticking to a plan and making that commitment. But I do, when it comes to responsibility, we talk about responsibility, mind, body, spirit, the emotional component of cancer. Can we talk about that briefly before we go? Because we can continue our conversation off the air, but for now, responsibility, mind,
responsibility.
body,
well, for me, that was everything. I took responsibility for my life and my health, right? Like I said in the beginning of our interview, I realized like the way I'm living is killing me. And this is the same thing I tell every cancer patient. Hey, the way you're living is killing you. And this is not me. I'm not trying to make you feel bad about yourself. I'm just trying to wake you up and help you realize that your choices matter, that you have the power to affect your future based on the choices you make today, right? Today's choices produce tomorrow's health.
Absolutely.
And so you can take your power back and change your life. You don't have to keep living your life the way you've been living it. If you keep living it the way you've been living it, you're going to expect to get the same results you're getting.
Yes.
So responsibility is at the core of health and healing and prevention. It's not becoming a victim, not giving.
I don't know if it's me or if it's Chris that we lost, but Brian, can you hear me? So for those of you who are...
That's what it's about. That's personal responsibility.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I am just so thrilled, Chris, that you have been such a wonderful giver. I want to encourage people. I don't know where we're at because I just lost connection there for a second, but I'm back. I want to thank you, Chris, for sharing your information. So powerful. And I'm looking forward to having a private conversation off the air. Listen to your intuition, my listening friend. Let it not be based out of fear. Don't wait. Listen to your intuition and be based out of love. Let it be based from love. Thank you, Chris. And please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. I completely lost connection and I am back. I'm so glad that we're still recording. I don't know what I missed, but I know that you took over like a champion. I knew that
we didn't miss a beat.
Well, okay. So there's so much we couldn't talk about because we have so much time that is that we have commercials and things. But anything that you would like to leave us with as we end this? We talked about fear and using it as an acronym to guide us and give us power. And I love the fact that, going from that victim to that responsible mind frame is so important. So is there anything that you would like to address that maybe you didn't get to talk about on the air?
Well, I can talk for hours about all this, but the underlying cause of many chronic diseases, including many cancers, is stress. And we didn't get to that on the air. And it's, I mentioned diet, lifestyle, and environment are the big acknowledged cancer causers. So eating a diet that's rich in animal food and processed food and junk food is going to lead to sickness. Living an unhealthy lifestyle, not exercising, smoking, drinking, right, abusing drugs, or even just taking prescription drugs can lead to disease. And being a workaholic, those kind of things. And then the third factor is environment. So we know there are environmental toxins. Environmental pollution does contribute to cancer. And so it's important to be mindful of what's around you, what you may be exposed to. And if you live next to a chemical factory or work in one, it's probably a good idea to start looking for another job in a non-toxic environment and an apartment or home in a non-toxic environment, right? Yeah. So those are obvious things, like steps that people can take to reduce their risk, to improve their odds of healing. But not even odds of healing, just to improve their body's ability to heal. But underneath all that is really the deadly sort of seething underbelly of disease, which is stress. And stress is really a catch-all term that it's an umbrella term that really captures all negative emotions. Envy, jealousy, fear, worry, anxiety, bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness, self-loathing, self-hatred, shame, guilt, right? All of those negative emotions produce stress in your mind and in your body. And what stress in your body looks like is elevated stress hormones. Adrenaline and cortisol are two that everyone's heard of. And when you live in a state of chronic stress, chronic bitterness, chronic resentment, chronic unforgiveness, chronic self-hatred, right? Chronic envy, your stress hormones are going to stay up, right? They're going to be elevated to unhealthy levels. And what they do is they suppress your immune system and they promote inflammation in the body. And over time, they lead to disease. This state of inflammation and immunosuppression is a disease state. And so it doesn't happen because you got stressed out about something at work, right? It's months and or years of living in that state. And many people are living in that state and they're what I call teetering on the brink of disease. And may even have a lot of warning signs in their life that disease is coming. Maybe they're overweight, they're having pain issues, inflammation issues, right? And things like that. And then there's a traumatic event that happens, right? The loss of a loved one, divorce, death, right? Loss of a job, bankruptcy, loss of a business, even loss of a pet sometimes can be a profound.
They're family members too,
Traumatic, yes, and so that can be what I call the cancer trigger or the tipping point, where their immune system it's almost like it's just like I give up, it just becomes so decimated, and the grief, the shame, the guilt, whatever it is, the fear really consumes them, and their body just becomes vulnerable to cancer. And that's when cancer really starts to grow. And for some of those people, they might have already had cancer in their body, but it really starts to take off after that event. And the problem is then they get a diagnosis, and that's a stress bomb on top of all the other stress they've got, isn't it?
And then the fear that they put on you if you don't do chemotherapy, and they plant the seed of doubt that your intuition is correct to want to do and heal your body.
Right.
I did for very successful people, I just wrote an article called 5 Ds for Success. And, it's dream, drive,
do drugs.
Yeah, no. And, God, the words just like are leaving my head right now. But I always say, which is like setbacks, disappointments, and And so those are, those are the 5 Ds and for successful people. And we can take that success and put it into our life. And one of the things that it dawned on me that 6D is disease. Sometimes people have to get disease to get them back to the 5Ds. Like with you, your disease, the disease that you had, many people have the cancer in their body. I think it was Charles Major that shared this with me. You could have cancer in your body, 7 or 8 times in your lifetime, but nobody knows about it. Your body naturally takes it and goes away. But when it's discovered, that's when we start intervening. And if we continue to eat a horrible, horrible, horrible life, but sometimes that disease that will either paralyze you and make you die, because that's another thing. When people say to you, you have 3 weeks to live, and how obedient we are to live only those 3 weeks, or we can take the other side and say, watch me. I'm gonna beat this. I'm gonna beat this just like you did. What was that shift for you? At what point did that shift come when you said, I don't know what's going to happen to me, to I'm going to be okay. I know I'm doing the right things no matter what anybody else is telling me. I've got this resolve, this, I'm going to do this. What was that point for you where there was no turning back, Chris?
Yeah, well, I had what was called the Beat Cancer Mindset. That's what I call it. I talk about that in the book. There's a whole chapter in my book called the Beat Cancer Mindset. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was really rooted in a determination to get well and a strong will to live.
That's one of the Ds, by the way, determination.
Determination, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I decided I wanted to live, right? Mm-hmm. Someone asked me, do you really want to live? And I was like, I don't know. I was just focused on not dying. Mm-hmm. But I realized, yes, like I need to make a decision. I'm going to decide to live. And so if I'm going to live, then I've got to be determined to get well and change my whole life. And so the Beat Cancer Mindset has 5 components, but it's taking responsibility for your health, taking massive action, being determined to live, and enjoying your life and the journey, right? And so I did all those things. I did all those things, and it just, to me, there was no obstacle that I wasn't. And the other factor, which I didn't mention, is being willing to change everything, right? And so, or do whatever it takes. Yeah. And I was willing to do whatever it took to get well, right? Yeah. I just was willing to change my life. I was willing to identify my negative thoughts and emotions. I was willing to start changing the way I was thinking, catch myself thinking negatively and start thinking positively.
So important.
Made a decision to forgive every person who had ever hurt me.
Wow.
And forgiveness is really one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself.
Yeah.
Is to forgive the people who've hurt you and let them go and give them to God. And just say, God, I forgive them. They're all yours. They're all yours. You can have them. You can deal with them. I'm not going to hold it against them anymore. Like, I'm not going to carry this bitterness, resentment, and this toxic emotion around, because it is poisoning you. Bitterness is toxic, emotional, and physical poison. And
we use it as a badge of honor. We use it as I'm not going to forgive. And as a life coach, I'm a certified life coach. That is one of the things that I really drive. And going through that process, I have on my website the 4 questions to take responsibility for your life. And it's going from victim to choosing that lesson, that gift, I'm sure that if somebody would have said to you, would you have chosen cancer in your life? You would have said, absolutely not. Don't want it. Don't even want to go there. Don't even want to look at that or even think about it. However, if you'd go through the process of what cancer did for you as a victim, you've lost your power. You'll probably die. But if you go back and you look at, how did I create it? What are the gifts and lessons? What's going to be different? And finally, how am I going to use this experience to help others? Now you're victorious. You are responsible. You chose this for yourself. You chose this for the emotion aspect of it. And it completely changes the results, doesn't it?
That's amazing. Yes, you articulated it so well. And right, I wouldn't choose cancer, but the cancer experience changed me in every way.
Mhm.
And there's a verse in the Bible that says God works all things for the good of those who
My
love him.
favorite, Romans 8. Love
Yeah,
it.
Romans 8:28.
Yeah.
And that was the first verse I thought of when I was diagnosed. I was just reminded of it. It came to mind, and I thought, man, I'm just going to exercise my faith, and I'm going to believe that this is true, that God, you are going to work this for my good, right? Somehow. And I did not want a cancer, right? It wasn't like, oh, yay, now I'm going to show, the world how good God is or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. Because I aligned myself, right, with God, right? I got right with God, got my faith in the right place, and then took full responsibility for my own situation and for my decisions. So it wasn't just like, help me, heal me, and then keep doing the things that are making you sick. Like, that's not a good strategy, right? Heal me miraculously while I'm eating junk food.
Yo-hos.
Yeah. So I changed everything, but I was fully relying on God to lead me and heal me. And through the process, he blessed my life in every way. He changed me in every way. And so some people call cancer a blessing or a gift, not the disease itself, but what their life became as a result of that trial, tribulation, adversity, right? And so I completely understand that. My life is so much better having gone through cancer.
Well, not only that, I just, since you mentioned Romans 8, that is my favorite. I always, when something is happening to me, I have to stop. First thing I do is stop, and I think, okay, things could be worse. That's my first, when I was 10.
Yeah.
That was my first lesson at 10. I was listening to a priest talk about, that there are people that complain they don't have any shoes, but if you look at your neighbor, they may not have feet. I heard that at 10, and something within me went, I am so grateful. I am so grateful that, whatever happens. But when you're going through it, gratitude may come later. At that moment, asking the question, I'm grateful that it could be worse. I'm grateful for what I have now, and I'll deal with it, right?
Yeah.
But even with, so Romans 8, God works things out for the good of all. So this is something that the next thing I ask myself or tell myself is, how will this benefit me? And how will this benefit the world? That's the next question I ask myself. And it's just like prepares me to get to that, okay, now I'm ready to dive into this, right? And but with you, we count on God to heal us, right? But churches are full of sick people. Where is God? Because they want God to do all the work while I'm eating my meat and my fried foods and my, all that stuff. Where is God? God is waiting for us, because the story in the Bible of the paralytic man waiting for 35 years for someone to push him into the pool. Every time the bubbles, they jump in and they heal themselves. And Jesus saw this man, knew his heart, knew everything. But Jesus asked, do you want to be healed? He didn't just heal him. He asked him, do you want to be healed? And then when the man said yes, Jesus didn't pick him up and levitate him and throw him in the pool. Jesus said, pick up your mat and walk. Pick up your mat and walk. So that's what you did. You had faith that was within you, but you picked up your mat. Well done, Matt. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I just realized I had a big part to play in my life and in health and healing. And, we can't expect God to heal us. And frankly, I wanted miraculous healing. I prayed for it. I asked for it. Like, I wanted that.
Yeah.
But, God knows what we need more than we do. And if I had been healed miraculously overnight, I wouldn't have changed anything.
Correct.
And the thing is, I needed to change. I needed to change my life, my attitude, my habits, my emotions, my spiritual life. It all needed to change. And a miraculous healing would not have changed anything. I would have gone back to the same old routine.
Which most people do. after
Yeah.
they're cured. So I have a question for you, and I'm so sad that we didn't get to ask it while the air, but people who are watching this video, and I'll hopefully direct people to watch this. This is my question to you. I'm not the same person I was when I started the radio show. Who I am today is not the person I was then. That 26-year-old that started this journey is not the 41-year-old man that stands before me and all of us who are watching you. What would you tell as that 41-year-old man has an opportunity to go back to that 26-year-old? What would you tell yourself when you were 26?
Well, before the cancer or after?
Well, at that moment of
Yeah.
the cancer.
Yeah. So
Or anybody's moment where they
sure.
first
Well, I
find
mean,
out.
looking back, I can look back and feel good that I made the right decisions, right, at the time. But if I could travel back and talk to myself during that time, I would just I would over and over keep encouraging myself to not be afraid. Like, don't be afraid. Don't let fear steal your joy. Like, enjoy your day. Enjoy every single day. And I really did learn that pretty quickly. You mentioned gratitude. I learned how to exercise gratitude very quickly during the process, because otherwise you're just living in a state of chronic fear.
Correct.
Right. And when you've got fear and anxiety and worry, right, on your mind, and even just resentment about your situation and jealousy and envy of others. I mean, I was envious of everyone around me who didn't have cancer, and it was not a good feeling. And I just learned to quickly catch myself in those emotions and in those thoughts and be like, wait a second, your example is perfect. Like, yeah, I don't have shoes right now, but I have feet.
Yeah.
Right. There are so many people out there whose lives are so much worse than mine. I have so much to be thankful for. I have a wife who loves me.
Yeah.
I had a little baby girl on the way.
Yeah.
I had a roof over my head. I had enough money in the bank to pay my next set of bills coming. I had family who loved me. It's just, as I start listing, like, okay, let me just take stock. What do I have? I had so many things to be thankful for and grateful for, so many good things in my life. And when I focused my attention away from the bad thing, cancer, to all of the good things, it transformed the way I felt, right? It changed my mood, my attitude, even the way I felt physically in my body. Like, it brought happiness and joy into my body. And gratitude really is the secret to happiness. And the reason I think so many of us are unhappy today in our culture is because we're all focused on everybody else. We're all focused on Instagram and Facebook and look how great their life is, or how pretty they are,
That's right.
or how well dressed they are, or their car, or their house. We're just focused on, we have so much envy and jealousy swirling more than ever before in human history, right? Because we've never been able to see into everybody else's lives like we do now.
Yeah.
And everybody's putting on a front and putting up a show and trying to make everybody else think how great their life is. And all that just leads you to unhappiness, right? The more time we spend on social media, the less happier we are. They've already done studies about this. And so, again, it's become second nature to me. But anytime I start to feel a twinge of envy or jealousy or anything, I immediately catch it. And I'm like, this is stupid. My life is so good. I'm so blessed. Like, I have two beautiful little girls now in my life, and a cat and a dog that I'm crazy about. Just friends, family. I've got a new
Very
book.
successful career, new book. I mean,
yeah, it's just ridiculous for me to ever complain about anything. And not that I do still complain sometimes, but it really is. I acknowledge how ridiculous and silly it is for me to complain, because right now, and this is something I tell cancer patients, I try to help them get perspective. And I say, look, right now, I know you have cancer. I know you don't like it, right? I know you're unhappy, you're struggling with this. But let me just give you a wake-up call real quick. Right now, there's someone in the hospital dying who would give anything to trade places with you. Don't forget that.
Yeah, that's a great visual.
And that's for anybody, right? It doesn't matter, cancer or not. If you're feeling unhappy about your life and your situation, believe me, there are thousands, arguably maybe millions of people that would love to trade places with you
Yeah.
in the world, who are struggling, suffering, poor, just debilitated. I had a family member take his own life 3 days ago,
Oh,
and he was 32. And
so sorry, Chris.
I don't know why. I mean, no one really knows why he did it. He wasn't married, didn't have any children. He was lonely.
I've done a lot of shows on that, and maybe we can talk about that off the air. But
Yeah.
losing connection. I have a free gift for people that join my website, and it's the 90-day challenge to self-love ebook.
Hmm.
And I discovered a long time ago that people who are depressed and anxious have lost that connection to self. We've lost the connection to nature. We've lost our connection. We've become more and more connected to the internet, and that's our lifeline. And we compare our exterior, someone's exterior to our interior. So how we're feeling, and then we're looking at all these visual images of, yay, we're having great fun time. But right before that, I smacked my kid. Yay. It's like all these wonderful things that you're seeing other people have. But there's other, and I'm very sorry for your loss. And just like cancer, chemotherapy and disease kills people, or that's the end of them. But with mental illness, suicide is their only out. That's the side effect of it. But I've done a lot of shows on mental health and wonderful healers, but we can talk about that off the air. But many of us, that state of gratitude sometimes can be blocked by some of the medications that we're taking too.
Oh yeah. I mean, no, that's it's a whole nother variable that unfortunately I think a lot of people are struggling with. And you look at a lot of people who've committed suicide and a lot of people who have gone into schools and shooting them up, right? We're on psychiatric medication.
Side effect. Nobody's looking at that.
And I believe that many of them would not have done those things had they not been on these psychiatric meds that just made them insane. It made them worse.
Yeah.
Didn't make them better.
I know.
And then look at the tragic outcome. How many other lives have been affected as a result of that. So it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And part of what I am trying to do is help people take control of their life and their health and realize that they're not a victim and they don't have to just cross their fingers and hope a drug will help them. That there's so much they can do to help themselves, and that healing is a process. It's a journey. It requires trial and error, right? But you just got to start. Like, you have to start taking your life back, start making changes, and monitor your progress, be systematic about it. And because nobody's going to take nobody's going to take better care of you than you.
Yeah.
No
Unfortunately, that may not be true in some situations because they're incapable of seeing self-love.
Well, you're right. I'm saying if you decide to take care of yourself.
If you decide to take care of yourself, no one can be you. No one can take care of you. And when they're put on these psychotropic drugs and they are, they're trying to make sense of it, it's like a one size fits all, just like chemotherapy, just like radiation. Now, how does a doctor say to you, oh, you'll need 12 rounds of this and 12 rounds of that? What about, we'll take it one chemo at a time? Hey, if you feel better this time and it works, we'll do another one. We'll schedule you for the next one. Who says you have to go through all this stuff? And it's insane. It's insane what we are doing to control and manipulate people.
I will say it is getting a little better.
Good.
There are studies coming out where they're finding that less rounds of radiation is as effective as more rounds, right? And less doses of certain chemos for certain drugs, for certain cancers, are as effective as. So there is some progress being made to give the cancer industry credit, where they are dialing back treatment. And thanks to genetic testing, they're finding that half of breast cancer patients don't even need chemo. This is a huge revelation from last year.
We didn't even talk about the financial gain of doing chemotherapy.
I know it. But the Mammoprint test and the Oncotype test, both the results found that half of breast cancer patients who have in the past been treated with chemo, now they realize after surgery, they don't need it because their cancer is a certain genetic type that is not likely to return or whatever. So, so slow growing, it's not really a threat. So there, there is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, even in the conventional world, that they're making improvements.
Well, I tell you what, my registered service mark is you can take a pill or you can take responsibility. I'm not against pills. I think pills short term do well, but the long-term effects of many of these pills are deadly. The side effect of taking responsibility for our life, and I'm talking about the responsibility I'm talking about it has nothing to do with blame, shame, fault, or duty. I'm reframing it, the responsibility to empowerment and freedom of choice and freedom, just that free will to make the choice that's best for me. Not here's my shoe, Chris. I don't know what shoe size you are, but I want you to put it on you and I want you to walk for the rest of your life with this shoe. And it's going to be painful for you. What works for me, Chris, may not be what works for you. And I'm so grateful for everything that you've done to present this freedom of choice, to let people know, wake up. I've got a new domain. It's called Awaken Worldwide. Awaken Worldwide. Let's just awaken the people. And between Ty and Christine Bollinger of The Truth About Cancer, your shows, my shows, we're all together collectively creating critical mass. And we're going to start making demands. We need to make demands for what we want. And this is the new truth that I talk about on the show, that, there was a time, oh, am I frozen? Okay.
You're back.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to check and see what's going on with the connection. But there was a time that people thought the earth was flat. And it took a long time.
People still do.
I know. It took a long time to embrace
There's
this fear.
Some people out there that think that.
I know. And you know what?
It's going to come back.
Both have the same passion. Both argue the point with the same passion. And so we just need to, I don't want to force feed what I'm teaching people, but I also want people to just consider this new truth. And I don't know if you heard any of that because we're freezing, but I just want to say thank you, Chris, for being on the show today. And
thank you so much for having
I
me.
would love to have another conversation with you in the future and keep this conversation going, because it's wonderful to speak to someone maybe that's not a MD, but has become their own medical detective, their own MD. And well done, Chris. I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to tell you how grateful I am for you.
Thank you, Lillian. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for letting me share my story with your audience. And it's been fun.
Anytime. And to you, my viewing friends, Chris, if anybody wants to get a hold of you as a coach, a cancer coach, they can just go to your website.
chrisbeatcancer.com. I've got a great program called Square One for healing and preventing cancer. But first, just get my book.
Get the book. Get the book.
It's in stores. It came out yesterday. It's brand new, hot off the presses. You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. You can pretty much order it from anywhere books are sold. Your local independent bookstore can order it for you. It's distributed by, published by Hay House, distributed by Penguin Random House. So, I mean, you can get it anywhere.
Yeah, Hay House, that's a big deal. So congratulations. And to you, my viewers, thank you for watching. And I know that somewhere along the way, a seed has been planted. Keep planting seeds, and then we'll all grow into this beautiful, beautiful bouquet. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.